It's back. Bigger. Better. And better. It's Black History Month, the sequel, a 28-day celebration of black exploitation films. Cleopatra Jones and the Casino of Gold. Our girl Cleopatra was doing Flash Gordon-like serial titles long before Indiana Jones. I thought the first Cleopatra Jones movie was pretty good, but the sequel is a perfect example of how to take something good and expand it into something great. By this point, blaxploitation was on the decline commercially, so the people over at Warner Brothers needed to come up with a way to sell the movie to a wider audience. The answer was basically staring them right in the face, since even though the first movie was a small-town action film, Cleopatra was presented as an international Jane Bond type super agent. So naturally, the answer was to take the character international. In the Casino of Gold, Cleopatra Jones's partners goes missing in Hong Kong, and she has to catch a flight to go over and investigate what happened to them. No, that's not deja vu you're experiencing. The plot is very similar to TNT Jackson, right down to the karate action. But the Casino of Gold does everything better than that movie in every single way. Tamara Dobson, in all her 6'2" glory, returns as Cleopatra Jones, and just like in the first film, she comes complete with the latest clothing styles, something she always insisted on in these films. This time, she did her own makeup though, and I'm conflicted about that one because even though it's as over the top as the movie is, I like the more natural look she had going in the first film. About the movie though, what makes it better? For starters, whereas the first film was more slow-paced and actually had an investigative tone, Casino of Gold abandons all of that for complete balls-to-the-walls action. Think the new Fast and the Furious movies versus the old ones. There's barely a slow moment in it between the car chases, the gunfights, and the karate fighting. Speaking of which, the fighting is far more competent this time around because they actually hired some choreographers who specialize in that kind of thing. So when Cleopatra fights, it looks way more convincing than it has any right to look. Plus the stunt work is ridiculous. Look at this. It seems like a small thing, but compare this to the work in TNT Jackson, and it's like night and day. This time Cleopatra even has a sidekick named Mei Ling, and thankfully she's not annoying, and her chemistry with Cleopatra is surprisingly one of the best parts of the film. She even gets in on the action for most of it, with one of the highlights being the scene where the bad guys tie her up and she has to use nothing but kicks to fight them off. Yeah, it's obviously a dude in some of the shots, but just put your brain in sleep mode for a minute, because the movie does a lot more right than wrong with the limited budget it has. Perhaps the most improved aspect of the film is the villain. Don't get me wrong, I'm one of the few people who actually like Shelley Winters as Mommy in the original film, but she's got nothing on Stella Stevens as the Dragon Lady in this one. If you remember, she was Anne in the movie Slaughter with Jim Brown, but she's no damsel in distress love interest in this. She's legit evil and intimidating as the big boss in this, and you don't even question the idea of her intimidating a bunch of men because she plays the role so well. I mean, Cleopatra is so tall, she towers over damn near 90% of the men in the film, but next to the Dragon Lady, she might as well be 5'6", because Stella Stevens just owns the screen when she appears. There's a standout scene in which she does a sword fight with one of her enemies. At first you think she's gonna hand it to somebody else, but then nope, she fights the guy herself. It's impressive. Cleopatra Jones and the Casino of Gold is an example of a sequel done right. Take everything people liked about the first movie and turn it up to 50. For whatever reason, Max Julien didn't return to write the script, but that might have been for the best because the last thing this movie needed was to be overwritten. Unfortunately, this movie along with Friday Foster and Sheba Baby didn't do too well financially, pretty much putting an end to the leading black woman she-roles of the 70s. And that's a shame because we were robbed of more adventures of Cleopatra Jones. Black exploitation movies were looking for that James or Jane Bond type character for years, and out of everybody tried, nobody even came close to fitting the role more than Cleopatra Jones.